This is an avocado, but y'all already knew that, right? Most of you also know that this is a Hass variety avocado. Some of you may know that we eat 4 billion of these Hass avocados per year. But I'll bet none of you know that every single one of them was picked from the same tree. 4 billion is a huge number. So huge it's difficult to conceptualize. For perspective, if you ate 1 avocado per second, it would take you 127 years to eat 4 billion avocados. How could we possibly get 4 billion avocados all from the same tree? Well, the answer lies in the way we cultivate avocados. We use a technique called grafting. Back in the day, and I ain't talking the 80s. Well, maybe I am, like the 1380s or the 1180s. But I don't mean the Karate Kid era. But back in the day, hundreds of years ago in Mesoamerica, food was hard to come by. And when people were taking a stroll through the woods like I am now, they come upon something that looks like they could eat, they'd try it. If they got nutritional value from it, they would attempt to domesticate and replicate that food source. So one day, someone came upon an avocado. It was ripe. He ate it. It tasted good. He didn't get poisoned by it. He didn't get killed by it. He found a new food source. And people thought, gosh, we really want to replicate this tree. Then somewhere along the line, someone came up with the idea to take a cutting from the tree that produced good fruit and splice it in to a seedling grown from the seed of a fruit from that tree. So after some thought, he went back to the village, went out to the little communal plot, took an avocado seed and planted it in soil and grew himself a seedling. Then a little clip, a little snip, and a little splice. And that's how the avocado was domesticated. Now you know how avocado trees are created and how avocados are grown. But I still haven't shown you how every avocado you've ever eaten have all come from the same tree. In order to do that, I need to tell the story of Rudolph Hass. In the 1920s, a fellow by the name of Rudolph Hass lived up in Wisconsin. He was a mailman. He worked for the U.S. Post Office. He had a family, he had children, but he wanted to improve his station in life. He wanted to make more money. So he came up with the idea to move the family to California, buy a plot of land, and start growing avocados to make more money. He got out there, he got his hands on some seeds, he planted those seeds, grew them into seedlings, and Rudolph knew in order to be successful, he would have to graft his trees. So he took cuttings from a variety of avocado called Fuerte. That was the most popular avocado at the time. He put his grafts on his seedlings, some of which succeeded, but one of them failed. And he always had the intention to snip it and try again, but he never got around to it. And eventually that seedling, from where it was snipped, it started to grow back, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And in a few years, it started to produce fruit. And even after it matured and was giving fruit, he still wanted to cut it down. But his daughter loved the taste of the fruit so much, she convinced him to keep it. And he started giving the fruit out to other people, and they loved the taste also. When Rudolph realized that people enjoyed the fruit, he thought, maybe I won't cut the tree down. So he went to that tree, took a few cuttings, and grafted it onto other seedlings, and grew a few more Hass avocado trees. He began to sell that fruit, but more importantly, he went and got a patent for the Hass avocado. Now, a lot of people don't know this, but there's such a thing as a plant patent. If you grow a unique variety of plant, you can go to the US government and get a patent, just like if you invented a better mousetrap. And that's what Rudolph Hass did. He went out and he patented the Hass avocado. He granted the rights to a local nurseryman to take the cuttings from his avocados on his property, on Rudolph's property, and graft them at the nursery. Well, the nurseryman did just that. He started to grow and sell Hass avocado trees. And people fell in love with this odd-looking, dark-colored avocado. It was something they'd never seen before, something they'd never tasted before, and it became very, very popular. But here's the problem with a plant patent. Let's say you're a nurseryman, and you buy the rights to plant a variety of avocado. You give me $5,000, and you now have the right to take cuttings from my sleepy lizard avocado tree, propagate them yourself, and sell them. Now, a farmer comes along. He buys 100 of your Hass avocados, plants them in his grove. a few years go by. Maybe some of the other avocados he had has since died, right? He's got a hole in the grove. He needs to plant a new tree. You think he's gonna come back to your nursery and buy another 10 Hass avocados to replace the ones he lost when all he has to do is walk 5 feet and take a cutting from one of the trees he bought from you 7, 8 years ago? And that's exactly what happened. And as the Hass variety gained in popularity and eventually became the only commercially sold avocado, farmers took cuttings of their cuttings and planted more trees. And when those trees were mature, they took cuttings of those and planted still more. And every single one of them is an exact DNA match for that original tree that Rudolph Hass planted in La Habra Heights, California in 1925. And it spread all through California, down into Mexico, into Central America, into South America. The Hass avocado tree is grown on the west coast of Portugal, in southern Spain. It's grown on islands off of Africa. It also made it all the way across the globe. We got to look down here to the land down under, Australia. And it only took 80 years, which if you think about it is not a lot of time. But 80 years for the Hass avocado to be grown and cultivated all around the globe. I don't know the exact numbers, but there's upwards of 20 million individual trees out there, each of which produces 150 to 200 of these Hass avocados a year. Wait, I need to make up my mind, right? A couple minutes ago, I told you that every single one of these that you eat have all come from the same tree. Then a few seconds ago, I just told you there's upwards of 20 million Hass avocado trees spread around the globe. For me, it's an interesting discussion, right? When you take a cutting from a tree, you splice it into another tree. You create a graft. The tree you've spliced in continues to grow. So growing above the graft is an exact genetic replica of the tree from which you took the cutting. But it's really more than that, right? This cutting is that original tree. And that's what's growing on the seedling, right? And if in 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 years I come along when this guy's mature and I take a cutting from him, it's a continuation of this tree, which is a continuation of the original. I mean, can it not be argued that the 20 million Hass avocado trees out there are one big giant organism? I mean, the tree only came from seed one time. Every other Hass avocado tree is a cutting that was grafted onto a seedling. And then in 8 or 9 years, this tree is mature and we take a cutting from it. Well, that cutting is a continuation of its mother tree. And then in 8 or 10 years, we take another cutting and another cutting and another cutting and so on. Until 80 years later, we have 20 million trees that are simply cuttings of cuttings of cuttings of cuttings of cuttings that came from the original seed-grown tree on Rudolph Hass's property in the 1920s. So I ask you, is it one big giant organism? Is it 20 million clones? Or is it 20 million unique organisms, all of which give us identical fruit? I really want to know your thoughts. I've actually had this discussion in comments and other videos, and that's kind of what triggered me to talk about this. But I want to know what you think. So take a little time, formulate your thoughts, and go down into the comments and tell me. And if you want to be really comfortable and look really cool while you're pondering all this, go to guacfarm.com and get yourself a t-shirt. guacfarm.com. That's our website. You could buy a t-shirt, you could buy a sticker. When fruit's in season, we sell our fruit. Sometimes I have trees to sell. Sometimes I even have cuttings to sell. Agriculture is seasonal. It all depends on the season. Now, in order to get this seed, I had to cut open an avocado. And I'm going to go eat that avocado. While I do that, you go to guacfarm.com and I will see you on the next video.